Let's do it, guys. Boom. We are live here. Daily live stream. I'm going to try to do this daily between 9 and 10, 9 a.m., 10 p.m. Shooting for 9 a.m., but sometimes things come up and it doesn't end up being 9 a.m. exactly. Love you all. But join in for Coffee with Calvin. This is my official logo. It's going to go in the podcast as well. Sign up for the podcast so you get these as audio also. I want to start about going by... Shut up, Mac. I want to start by going a little bit vulnerable on a decision that I fucked up yesterday. It's not a grand thing, but it's just to illustrate sort of the decision-making process. So there's an event. I was working from home yesterday. There's an event on up near Grand Central that I wanted to go to. I had in my calendar. I had ample time to get there. And then as I was about to head out the door, I decided not to. And here's why. I was tired, and I'm in my second week after brain camp. And brain camp rewires your brain chemistry, your neurology, very highly neuroplastic. And it's important to rest and recover a lot, and so not exert yourself. So I was like, I need to rest. Also, diet. So I'm doing restricted time restricted feeding or intermittent fasting. So I fast for 18, 19, 20 hours a day, and then I eat the other days. Yesterday, I didn't get around to actually eating a proper quote unquote solid meal. Mostly shakes, and I had a few veggies that I had left over. But I was really looking forward to a nice veggie steak and eggs. I just got this amazing delivery of celeriac and salsify and parsnips and quince from Natura. And I was excited to get into cooking all those. And so I was like, if I go to that event, then it'll be too late, and I'll eat too late, and then I'll have to wait too long Wednesday to eat my dinner. And I really enjoy really nice food. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna stay home. I'm gonna cook this, and I'm gonna not go there. And as soon as the sun set, it was a beautiful day out. It was cold, but it was gorgeous, sunny day. As soon as the sun started setting, I knew it was the wrong decision. I knew I'd fucked up. I should have just gone. Especially the fucking salsify. I don't know if you ever done that. I didn't know about this veggie until last year, but it has all these like hairs on it. It's a fucking nightmare to clean. So it ended up taking me for fucking ever. And I cut myself in two places as well. So right here and right there. And there we go. So all over like a stupid decision, and moreover, like it was my friend David Meltzer who was doing a get together in the lobby of a hotel, and he's very good at hiring young people right out of college, and he especially hired this guy Garrett White, who's I'm fascinated with, who's currently the assistant to AJ Vaynerchuk, and I'm like, I want a guy exactly like that. So I could have met that person there. I could have asked David Meltzer how to hire that person. I mean, I can ask him anyway, but it would just been a good opportunity. So many good reasons to go to that event, and I talked myself out of it. And as soon as I said my arguments out loud later, I knew they were bullshit. And here's where I think you can probably recognize this, right? That we start to argue in our heads, and then we make up a story about how it's going to be. It's probably going to be boring, and it's going to take a lot of time to get there, and it's not worth it for the transportation time. It's going to be a waste of time, and it's going to be all that stuff, right? So we start to tell ourselves all these stories about it, and we rationalize ourselves out of it. So that's the thing I wanted to get through here is don't fucking rationalize yourself out of shit that you know that you need to do, right? That catching that rationalization voice and noticing when it's rationalizing and when it actually has something good to say. A good tip is to write it down, right? If you're making something like that in your head and you're not sure, I'm gonna turn this thing off. Write it down. That forces you to get clear and slow things down and check your assumptions. When we're just trying to do the math in our heads, it's so easy for us to our minds to trick ourselves. So write it down, talk it out with someone. I didn't have anyone around to talk it out with. I could easily, I could have easily written it down and just taken 3 minutes to do that. It would have saved me a lot of agony. I would definitely have gone, or maybe not, and just had more clarity around that. But so this morning I woke up and I was just beating myself up over this. I was like, fuck, why didn't you go? You should have fucking gone. Like, it's so obvious. And like, oh, fuck, you could just have taken a body meal and just been fine. And even like, lost a bit of body fat from not eating that much. And I didn't. And, and then, so that's where we get to practice forgiveness, right? I should have gone. Are you sure? Can I be absolutely sure that I should have gone? Maybe the fact that I didn't go, I could have died on the way. Who knows, right? Or maybe the fact that I didn't go meant that now I learned this lesson and I will do that for the rest of us. There's something blinking on my screen. It's fucking distracting me. Hold on. And I will forever, remember this lesson, and now I'll never make that mistake again. Or, some other thing came out of it, right? I can't with absolute certainty that I should have gone. And so how do I feel when I believe the thought that I should have gone to this and I didn't? I feel like shit. All right. How do I feel when if I couldn't think that thought? I'd feel totally fine. It's Wednesday. It's a beautiful day. It's a gorgeous day. And one lesson I drew is like, I'm going to head out, once I'm done with this, I'm going to head out to a coffee shop for a couple hours. And because it's so important for me to get out of the house. I don't know if you feel the same way with this whole remote world and working from home. And, I tell myself the story that, like the coffee shop's probably busy, or what if I don't find a good spot and then I end up wasting time, or like I have to walk around between different coffee shops, right? Like, especially here in New York, right? All the good spots are always packed and the bad spots are bad. So, that whole telling myself that story, and it's like, no, you know what? Like it's important for me to get out of the house. I need that. I need to get out of the house to feel good. And so even if it ends up being a shit, unproductive session, still the fact that I get out of the house is worth it, right? So that is the lesson here for me, and maybe that resonates with you. Maybe you can relate. If so, great. But remember to forgive yourself and question your thoughts, right? Regret is not useful. It's only useful insofar as you use it to change your future behavior. Right? Regret, just looking back and be like, oh, fucking beating yourself up over it. Like, don't go over there. Stop that train of thought right away. Love yourself. Love yourself for recognizing it. Love yourself for even having made the mistake. Maybe it was a mistake that you needed to make so that you could get this awareness. Who the fuck knows? We don't know. So we might as well make up a story that makes us happy and makes us more able to be successful and confident in the next moment. Right? That's how you want to think about it. Yeah. Always love yourself. Always forgive yourself. Always take the lessons, learn, do better, but always love and forgive yourself. Always love and forgive everyone. Doesn't mean you don't stand up for your rights, for your needs, to protect yourself and your family and all that stuff, but you can still love and forgive people because they don't know what they're doing. If you knew better, you would have done better. If they knew better, they would do better. That's always, if you believe what they believe, then you would do the exact same thing. You can always know that is true for sure. Right? When you know better, you do better. When they know better, they do better. If you believe what they believe, you would do the same thing. So love yourself and forgive yourself, and love them and forgive them. Always, every time. All right. So I wanted to talk about another topic here, which is how can we turn things around in the West? I am fucking shocked to see what's happening in our so-called free world right now. It's fucking crazy, guys. It's insane. I used to think, as a Danish citizen, I have a Danish passport. I'm here in the States on a visa. I thought that, hey, if shit turns really bad in America, I will just move back to Denmark. I'm not sure that's such a great option anymore. Denmark is just as bought into this bullshit. I saw a story on Alex Jones that Pfizer has signed these secret agreements with 50 countries around the world that gives them that gives them all kinds of rights and in exchange for providing the vaccine to these countries, right? So all these countries, I'm sure Denmark included, have signed this agreement that in it has that it must be maintained secret, and it gives Pfizer all kinds of rights over the countries. So that's fucking terrifying, guys. That it's basically like medical tyranny, right? It's basically that the big pharma now owns the government. I mean, it doesn't own the government. You get what I'm saying, right? But it has outsized impact, outsized control on the government. It even says something about like certain assets that they get the right to take if there are any IP issues or intellectual property, things like that. So things are fucking bonkers in the Western world right now. And I do think so. I do believe that the vast majority of people haven't really thought this through. That used to be me, right? I used to see myself as a Democrat, if anything, in America, because Republicans were clearly awful and nasty, and Fox News was clearly just racist and full of lies, and they're just like mean, angry assholes, all of them. I never watched a moment of Fox News, so I didn't know shit. But that was what I knew to be true from watching Jon Stewart and watching CNN, and those were, I think, my main news sources. I didn't even really know that MSNBC existed. I didn't know what it was. I didn't watch TV for years and years, right? So I didn't have cable TV in the US. I didn't have, even in Denmark before moving here, we didn't have television. I think we had like some television access on the computer a little bit. But it wasn't really a thing for me. And so I wasn't paying attention other than like I was watching Jon Stewart. And so, elbow cough. Yes. Hey, Chris. So I saw myself as Democrat, and then what changed was that I started to actually pay attention to stuff. I started to notice what they were saying, right? I was a fan of Bernie Sanders during the 2016 election, and then it wasn't until much later that I actually heard what he said. I was like, this doesn't make any freaking sense. Like, or read his tweets. I'm like, that's not how things work. And so I think there's a lot of people in that world where that haven't really thought things through, right? A lot of people who just they're not very clear on things. They're just like, well, I'm a Democrat because that's what decent people are. And so clearly, like if all you see is, the clips of Republicans of Trump, for example, which they're still trotting out Trump, right? It's insane. It's crazy. But everything you see about Trump is what you see on CNN. Yeah, he seems like a fucking maniac, and he is kind of a crazy person. But he's a much more effective, helpful kind of crazy than the current administration, right? Things were a lot better under Trump. I actually wrote, that might be a fun thing to go through at some point. We can do that now. What the fuck? I wrote a note on like a bunch of things that Trump did that I think were a good idea. So let me see if I can find that. Trump's accomplishments here, 25 fucking things that Trump accomplished. Let me see here. I'm gonna share them with you guys right now, just cause we're here. So let me see if I can. Oh, that was the wrong button. How do I click there? What is that doing? No, that's not the thing. This, and then do I do current application? No, current application. How's that work? That's not working. All right, show. Okay, show. Here we go. Notes. There we go. All right, let's try that. And then I'm gonna make this a lot. Why? Actually, what if I move this guy over there? Look at that. Look at me go. Look at me go, guys. All right. So number one accomplishment, we actually stood up to China. Number two, he didn't start any new wars. Number three, he withdrew from Syria. Number four, he secured the border with Mexico. 5, he cut regulation 8-1. I didn't know that. I knew that he set out to cut it 2-1, but he actually cut it 8 regulations for every one new regulation that he introduced. That's amazing, guys. That's amazing. We are suffocating under too much fucking regulation in the entire Western Hemisphere. In the entire Western Hemisphere. So that alone, man, is amazing. He had a booming economy, he really did. He up until COVID, right? Which I think COVID was absolutely intentionally targeted at Trump because he was standing up to China, and it was just like between the CCP and the powers, the traditional powers, the national security state in America and the deep state and all that wanted to control back, right? This country has been divided up between, Democrats and Republicans. They're all the fucking same. Whether it's Clinton or Bush or one or the other, it doesn't fucking matter. They're all basically part of the same trajectory. There's like slight differences. Trump was that completely new person. They couldn't fucking have it, so they needed to kill him, and they used COVID to do that. There's no doubt in my mind. Anyway, number 7, fought critical race theory. That is like critical race theory is fucking bonkers, guys. Have you studied that more? I studied that at some point, and it's nuts. All the definitions are circular, and none of it makes any sense. But it's like this insane mind virus. Invested in nuclear energy. Nuclear is the only thing that's going to save us from a climate change, whether or not it's real or catastrophic or whatever it is. If there's going to be any reduction in CO2 emissions, it's going to come from safe nuclear, thorium, salt, molten salt, thorium reactors, whatever the fuck they're called. Generation 4, it's super safe. It's very effective. That's where it's going to come from, or from like 0 point or neutrino energy and that kind of stuff, which is a little further off. But fourth generation nuclear is like basically solved. It's done. It's ready to go, and that's how that's going to be done. U.S. energy independence, super critical, guys. Like, we can't be dependent on Russia or the Middle East or any of that stuff for our energy. So combine like fracking and all that stuff has to be done safe and clean and that kind of stuff. But combining that with investing in nuclear energy, that is the path. That is the path. Pushing back against BLM and riots. I wish he'd been a lot more forceful on that. But Trump has many issues, right? He gets too much in his victim, and then he goes into his villain, and like he's like just like fucking enmeshed in the drama triangle, which is a big problem. But he actually fought back against BLM and the riots, which is a good thing. We love black people. I love black people. Totally cool. But BLM is it's a scam. It's a front for like Marxist agenda, and it's just a fucking hoax. It really is. And people bought into it. And looting and rioting is just childish behavior. Like, stop that shit. That needs to be nuked, or not nuked. That needs to be stopped. And people need to find a way to express their grievances. But a lot of the grievances are just victim in the drama triangle. And that has no use, no value. So fighting back against that, great. Wages went up, so that's a combination of a booming economy and securing the border, right? Like, when you have the border, lots of illegal people are flooding the border, that they come here and take up jobs and take work, and that puts downward pressure on the wages. And so he actually did stuff that made the wages go up. Minimum wage doesn't freaking work. It's not a good way to make wages go up. What you do is you control supply and demand, right? So when there's more demand and lower supply, what's going to happen to wages? They're going to go up. That's how that works. That's how you do it. You don't set the price, because that fucks with the market. You change the dynamics, the structure. You change it so that you cut regulation, and you get the economy going, so that there's more demand, right? And then you secure the border, and so that there is less supply, and then the wages are going to go up. He brought foreign capital back to the U.S. That whole offshoring thing, like, I get it. It makes a ton of sense. If you're a multinational corporation, you don't really, you don't report to any government, right? But, and then you put your money wherever it's cheaper. I get that. So making it more encouraging for people to bring that capital back. The whole America First policy, like put the factories here, invest in America. There is this notion that of like managed decline before Trump, of it's still there, that like, oh, America's kind of peaked and now it's going to be a new rising power. It's going to be China, right? And so we just got to manage the decline on the way back. I don't buy into that one iota. It will be that way if we believe it to be that way, and if we don't change the culture that has us thinking that way. But it's the same as thinking that just because you get older, you get sicker and weaker and, you know, slower and all that shit. You don't have to. Like, at some point, sure, you're going to die, but you don't have to. For the vast majority of your life, you can be healthier and healthier and healthier every day that goes by. If you do your PAFI and you do your intermittent fasting and you eat healthy and you do body meal and you do body meal fast and all these things, you'll get fucking healthier every day and you'll get younger every day. So he fixed that. Getting other NATO members to pay more, huge deal, right? Like, why the fuck should America pay for everybody else's military? I used to think, like, I was in the military in Denmark, and it was kind of understood, at least for me, that like, we're fucked if someone wants to invade Denmark and come across the border. We're screwed. We're completely screwed. We need America to come save our asses because they're the only ones who know how to fight a war. We have some elite forces a little bit in Denmark, and they're good, I'm sure. But mainly, like, the me in the military was garbage, and I would just like die on day one, I'm sure. I mean, I might find something in me if it really push came to shove, but it was kind of known that we're screwed. And so what happens is that America spends so much on military that Denmark can spend more money on education and healthcare, right? So basically, America is paying for Europe's free education and healthcare, like, because you're investing more in military. So thank you guys, but like, that's not fair, right? It's not really fair. So getting NATO members to pay their share, 2% of GDP, I think is the thing. I think that's totally fair. I support it. Opportunity zones, that idea of saying, hey, let's these particular area needs additional investment, and let's make that, you know, more interesting for certain people to do. Renegotiating NAFTA, that seemed like a shitty trade agreement. Did I put here getting out of? I should put on this one exiting the. I don't think I did. Exiting the Iran agreement. That's big. All right. Replacing Iran agreement with sanctions. And killing Soleimani. All right, so here we go. So we're talking about renegotiate NAFTA. Price transparency in healthcare. I think that was kind of a stroke of genius. Like, healthcare in the U.S. is a racket. It's a complete racket. It's a complete scam, right? It's like big ag, big food makes you unhealthy. Big media pushes all the wrong products on you. Big pharma sells you all of the medication to manage all the symptoms that are going to come just because you're eating the wrong foods and never fucking moving your body, exercising. And everybody profits, right? And then the government comes in and like, you know, the big pharma basically controls the FDA, and they are gonna they have the food pyramid and these like guidelines for how to eat, so you get really sick and unhealthy, and they push this garbage processed food in schools. There's a show with Jamie Oliver where he tries to fix the food in schools. And he actually served kids something healthy. And he ran up against a regulation who said, like, a slice of pizza was healthier than his, like, whatever the hell his dish was, which doesn't make any fucking sense. But that's because, like, the food there has, like, tomato sauce, and that counts as a vegetable on the pizza, right? And, like, you get people to drink milk, but it's filled with sugar, but it still counts as milk, and supposedly that's good. Like, you don't need fucking milk. What are you talking about? So all that stuff is mad. So we deliberately get people sick, really sick and unhealthy, so that we can sell the medication so that we can all fucking profit. It's a complete racket. I don't have health insurance. I don't have a doctor. I don't have any of that shit. I don't want to have any part of it. I don't want to touch that garbage. Like, I don't want to pay into that system because it's a complete fucking hoax. Yeah, so he fixed price transparency, which is a good first step in that. But there's so much work to do there. He eliminated the individual mandate, which to me was bonkers when I heard about it. I was like, how is that even like a thing? That like if you don't pay this private company money, you have to pay a penalty tax to the government. I was like, when I first heard about it, I'm like, that's insane. That's fucking insane. There's so many ways to take care of your health, and having health insurance is one of the least effective ones there are. Like I would like for the government to institute a law that says that if you don't buy my products, then you have to pay a penalty tax, right? Like that would be amazing. But I don't have that power yet. So I'm working on that. All right. Lowering prices of prescription drugs. All right. He managed to do that. I think he set up some rules about like, hey, if it's cheaper, if you're selling it cheaper overseas, like you have to sell at the same price here and that kind of stuff. That's great. It's still like, I hate prescription drugs, but if you're going to use them, like why would you have to overpay them, right? He defused the North Korean situation, the North Korean threat. I think that was super smart. I think he played that very well. Like his being a little bonkers played to his advantage. He replaced the Iran agreement with sanctions, and then he killed the Soleimani guy, which I think was a great thing to do. He reformed the Veterans Affairs, the VA. I think that was overdue, way overdue. Declaring an opiate crisis a national health emergency. That seems really, really kind of smart, right? Or reasonable. I watched The Pharmacist the other day on Netflix. It's a really good show. Go watch that. The Abraham Accords actually getting peace in the Middle East. This lie that peace in the Middle East depends on the Palestine problem, it doesn't. Nobody gives a crap about Palestinians, honestly, in the Middle East. Like, if the countries in the Middle East really cared to solve Palestinian problem, they would have solved that a long time ago. They only like it because it's useful to them to serve their ends, to have the Palestinians play the victims. And then they can leverage that to on like Western guilt, right? There's white guilt and then there's Western guilt, and it's essentially the same thing. So just changing that whole equation, brilliant. And finally here on my list, exiting the Paris Climate Accords. So all great stuff that Trump did, and I think those were all smart moves. Anyway, the thing we were talking about was this wasn't supposed to be about Trump, but I did do that list the other day. How can we turn things around in the West? So my belief is that most people don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't care. They're not paying attention. They're just kind of going along with the thing. And I believe that most people feel cowed by the mainstream opinion, right? You have to have a certain opinion. Once my opinions started changing and I went to events here in New York, it was very clear to people. It was very clear. Like, it was so easy. Like, people just assume that you all believe the same thing. And when I started questioning it, it was like I stuck out like a sore thumb, right? And I'm absolutely certain that I stopped getting invited by certain people to certain things because of that. Like, people are just so used to being in their bubbles that they don't even realize that there is another perspective. And I remember that I was at a party some years ago. That was in my early days before I changed my mind on a lot of things. And I was spewing some of those things, and I got pushback from some people, and I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that perspective. And so that was super helpful for me. So we got to do more of that. We got to do more of that where we're just gently pushing back on opinions, not just rolling with it, but speaking up and saying, I don't believe that's true. I think this is true instead. And this is how I see it. Because so many people are just completely isolated from that because all they do is watch CNN. They don't even know that there's another perspective. They don't even know anything about the efficacy of the vaccines, for example, or the jabs or the long-term effects of it, or some of the things that we know about original antigenic sin and the effects waning and stuff like that. Most people don't know shit about this, the side effects, all that stuff, because they're just watching CNN and they're just listening to the same people who watch the same sources, and they never get exposed to that. So I think we need to just gently wake people up. And the good news is that once you're woken up, it's hard to go back to sleep, right? Once you're really woken up, you don't go back to sleep again. You don't become another fog person, right? So again, you stay awake. So that's the trick, is to just, help people expose people to new things. The other thing is that when people are very scared, they're living in fear, and they have a lot of identity. So they find security in the tribe. They have a lot of identity in certain beliefs and opinions, because their self-image, their self-identity is so shaky that they find identity outside themselves in their opinions and in their tribe and stuff like that. They don't have that clear sense of self within themselves. That makes it really, really hard for people to change their minds. So we need to help people grow a better sense of self. And that's one of the things that I want to do, and I hope to be able to do, is help people get a more clear sense of self and find that worth inside, and not in the tribe, and not in their opinions, and not in the approval of other people. And then we need to get people out of fear. Right? When you're living in fear, when you're terrified like that, you're not going to get nothing in your life is really gonna work. You're gonna cling to something because you're just fucking scared, and it's a terrible place to be. It's gonna make you sick. It's gonna hurt your immune system. It's just like, we know that is a terrible, terrible state to be in. However, it's very profitable for a lot of people, right? Because you're gonna get sick, and you're gonna need drugs, and if they tell you this thing, and then they're gonna scare you into like, okay, yeah, I need that because I'm scared. Or the media can control you, the ads can control you. So a lot of people want people to be scared because it's very effective. But we, people who are on the side of truth and light and love, we need to help people not be scared, right? So learn to master your own fear, and then teach other people how to master theirs. That's the way to do it. And I think that's how we turn things around. We gotta wake people up one at a time, or at scale like this on social media. And it's happening, guys. It's happening. I think it's a growing community of people who don't buy the bullshit anymore, right? Look at all the people who are investing in crypto. Some of it is just like tulip craze, but a lot of it is like, nope, like, yeah, this shit is going down. Like, I mean a lot of people who are like, yeah, no, things are not headed in a good way. The smart people, right? A lot of people are still bought into the bullshit, to the machine. And we just got to be patient. We just got to wake them up. We just got to keep pushing back wherever we meet them, gently, lovingly, right? And then I think there's some people who are so traumatized, who are so stuck in their pain body, that you just aren't going to reach them. And so they're always going to be there. They're going to scream and holler and do their thing. And we just need to ignore them. But we really need a new crop of leaders who are more mature. So that's really a big thing here, is raising that mental, emotional, physical, spiritual maturity of people, so that we can get a new crop of leaders. And I have a lot of hope in the young generation. I think they're smart. I think they're clued in. I think a lot of them are clued into, like, the Matrix is like fucking bonkers. It's shit. And so we need that generation of young people to be mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually mature, so that we can get a generation of leaders that actually have maturity and integrity. The current generation have neither, and it's fucking hurting us. And I can't believe that not more people are seeing it, but they will. They will. All right, end of transmission for today. I appreciate you. Thank you to everyone who's watching, and be safe, be well. Love you all. Bye.